From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris will bring her message of joy directly to ex-President Donald Trump tonight as they counter their visions for the future of America during their presidential debate. Details from Canadian Press reporter Kelly Malone.
Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will square off in Philadelphia for a debate that experts say could be extremely important for who wins the White House in November. Allison Prash, an associate professor at the University of Wisconsin, says Harris will have to show her policy insights and Trump will have to stay on message.
This is going to be a defining moment.
Experts say the debate could sway or motivate voters, proving pivotal for the extremely tight race. Kelly Malone, the Canadian Press, Washington.
The chair of the Federal Liberal caucus says the party's retreat this week in Nanaimo, BC, is intended to give Liberal MPs the chance to have their voices heard by their caucus colleagues in confidence. Brenda Shanahan adds it is also a chance to share those thoughts with their leader, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney is expected to address the Liberal caucus today, a day after he was announced to chair a Liberal task force on economic growth and to help shape the party's campaign policies. Indigenous Services Minister Patty Hajdu is on board with Carney's new role.
I think it's going to be very helpful to have a perspective that's from outside of politics, that is someone that, is esteemed in the space of economic leadership.
New Democrats are kicking off a 3-day caucus retreat today in Montreal, days after leaving their confidence and supply agreement with the minority Liberal government. Canadian musician Jacob Hogard is expected to seek bail at a court hearing today in Toronto, weeks into serving his 5-year sentence for a sexual assault conviction. The Headley frontman filed an application last week seeking leave to appeal his case to the Supreme Court of Canada. Hogard was convicted in June of 2022 of sexual assault causing bodily harm against an Ottawa woman. But he was released on bail hours later, pending an appeal to the Court of Appeal for Ontario, which ultimately upheld Hogard's conviction last month, and he surrendered into custody. Some Ukrainians are planning to protest a documentary today that is slated for the Toronto International Film Festival this week.
The documentary Russia at War is set to make its North American debut at TIFF on Friday. The synopsis says the film shows Russian soldiers' disillusionment with the war as they learn the story they were sold in Russia is false. In a written statement, the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress alleges the movie seeks to explain away what it calls Russia's genocidal war of aggression against Ukraine. It plans to protest the film this afternoon. Jason White, The Canadian Press.
Jason Reitman is set to present his new movie Saturday night at TIFF tonight. The director is due to hit the red carpet with the stars of the film, including Gabriel Labelle, who plays a young Lorne Michaels. This is The Canadian Press. In sports, quarterback Aaron Rodgers' return to the football field was spoiled by San Francisco as the 49ers scored a 32-19 victory over the New York Jets in NFL Monday Night Football. Rodgers threw for 167 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had an interception a year after his debut with New York ended with a torn Achilles. The Toronto Blue Jays suffered a loss at the hands of the Mets at Rogers Center. Tyrone Taylor scored the tying run on a wild pitch in the 8th inning before fellow pinch runner Eddie Alvarez dashed home on a passed ball as surging New York rallied past the Jays 3-2 for their 10th victory in 11 games. And in tennis, Montreal's Gabriel Diallo has made a big move up the ATP rankings after his solid singles performance recently at the U.S. Open. The 22-year-old moved 40 spots up to 103rd place on the men's tennis rankings. From the Canadian Press, I'm Karen Rebo.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.